The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Starquest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars episode 88.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Creavey filling in for Father Fett, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away, including the deeper themes and meanings. Just a reminder, you can get your own official Secrets of Star Wars t-shirt. I've got mine on, as usual. Or coffee mug, stickers, magnets, all that wonderful merch that encapsulates our philosophy of finding hope in a galaxy far, far away. Available in various styles and sizes. Get your shirt at sqpn.com/merch. Also, don't forget, we have a new way to join Starquest Fan Club mailing list. Simply text Starquest to 66866. Again, text Starquest, all one word, to 66866. I don't think that is a mistake that's our number. A lot of 66s in there, Star Wars fans. Just a reminder to please be sure to share the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and leave us a review and let us know how we're doing. It also helps to get us seen by more people who would be interested in listening to our show. So today, we're discussing the 15th episode of The Bad Batch, Return to Kamino, which also happens to be part 1 of the 2-part Season 1 finale. The official description reads, The Bad Batch find themselves in unexpected territory in this thrilling finale. So joining me tonight to unpack this finale first half are, first off, Angela Sealana. Hello, Angela.
Hi there. Good to be here.
Great to have you. And second up, Thomas Sanjurjo. How you doing, Thomas?
It's good to be here. Doing well.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, and we're gonna dive right in here pretty quick, I think, to this because there's a lot to unpack. But I do want to just mention as we start off our recurring ham solo deli segment. This was a teaser for the audience last week because, of course, I couldn't be on the show, and I know. Listening into Angela and Father on last week, I know you guys kind of teased this, so I think you did share. Correct me if I'm wrong, Angela. You shared that Mace Windu was the name I went with. Was that correct? I think that was announced. Yeah.
Yes, that was.
But what the reason is? Long story short, the day before that, I was with some of my family members at a this music festival, and then right next door there was like this kind of not a pawn shop, but it was like all kinds of weird gizmos and gadgets and stuff, and this guy's kind of a picker. He runs the place, so there's like stuff for your yard and you know whatever, but he has all this memorabilia, and he had shelf after shelf of like Star Wars action figures, like carded episode 1 action figures.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, I gotta take a look at these. So sure enough, and this is great. So these I got 2. These are they're copyrighted 1998, so I'm thinking this is like the Christmas release of action figures right before Phantom Menace rolled out.
Yeah.
Because Phantom Menace isn't even on the card, it just says Star Wars Episode 1. It's got the KB Toys stickers on them, like the old price tags. But here's the thing. So Mace Windu, I'm holding it up for them to see, Mace Windu with a blue lightsaber.
Oh.
Okay. And then I always know if I'm pronouncing his name right, Ki-Adi-Mundi or Kai-Adi-Mundi with a purple lightsaber.
Interesting.
So I'm a little optimistic, and I was acting like I found a gold mine. I think the guy just thought it was weird. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna get these. And I leaned over to like my wife as I was like, hon, it's the wrong lightsaber colors. I was like, these are gonna be like, you know, someone's gonna like buy this for like $100,000, you know, so we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that, but I thought that was pretty cool. So that was the story. And then the only other one I want to add, and this is the tie-in as we kick off this week's episode, is of course, 2 things. We went to Chick-fil-A and ordered as Princess Leia, but they typed it in as Leia. which made me think of Tarkin.
Is still
And then this was yesterday. Jedi Master Sifo Dyas, of course, who features prominently in this whole Kamino arc from the get-go. So let's just jump here right in if you guys are ready to roll. I want to unpack it. So what were your guys' overall just sort of first impressions of this episode? Anything that really just out the gate was on your mind?
Utter bewilderment at the end. A lot of character development moments that were earned.
Yes.
And also, I know we'll talk about all that, but just overall beautiful scenes. I mean, just the graphics on this were gorgeous, especially on Kamino. The water and the lighting, fantastic. The music, Mike and I were talking a little bit before we started recording about just all the hails back to the prequels that we heard. Just overall, I thought it was an impressive, well done first part to this finale, and I'm so looking forward to the next week's episode.
The cinematography is amazing, and it's one of those things that I know that Dave Filoni's been pushing the envelope in the animation department to really get the cinematography down and make it a movie quality animation, and this just illustrated that so well. All of the following shots, the establishing moments, the lighting, the mood to everything, the way that they angled stuff, the camera work was incredible. And props to the camera guys, because it's easy. And I think a lot of people think of animation as so easy because you throw the camera wherever you want to, but the real issue is knowing the cinematography well enough to know when not to just throw the camera wherever you want to, and to actually put it somewhere that makes it feel a certain way. So yeah, excellent.
The storytelling. Yeah.
I think and that's a great point too, just because I was just noticing, I watched it again tonight, and there's one scene in the cockpit on the Havoc Marauder where they're talking, and Echo's in the foreground and he's a little defocused and they have the focus past him on tech. And I'm like, that's on purpose. It seems obvious, but it's that little detail that you don't notice the first time around specifically, because it's mimicking or it's duplicating what real camera sort of operations produce, and it's absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, let's get into the plot summary here, and then if you guys just want to, I've got a couple places I'm thinking we could break out, but there's so many things, if you want to take a little sidebar, please feel free to.
So before we get started, one thing I wanted, did you guys talk about the Stormtrooper outfits last week? Because I missed last week, and that's where the first TKs show up, right? Is in last week's episode.
We didn't get into it in detail.
So those are Ralph McQuarrie's original designs for Stormtrooper armor, which is so cool. I was seeing those, I was like, oh, that's so awesome. They're on screen. So that's the prototype is really Ralph McQuarrie's art prototyped for the TK units.
Was that and how the top is a little more domed, and it kind of kind of tapers out almost. It's almost like a very subtle Vader-esque kind of thing. I kind of was getting off that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
so
where
cool.
That's where all that art was. I was seeing so much of the art pop out in this one. It was really neat.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't that maybe certainly with Vader's helmet, I know, but there were certain samurai aspects, I think, to that he incorporated, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, that's a lot of what Lucas wanted, was just because of the Jedi samurai connection. He wanted that samurai connection even with the stormtroopers.
That's awesome. Huh. Well, getting into the episode itself here, so we pick right up where we left off last week. Hunter is captive on board this shuttle under armed guard. Crosshair comes in. They have a little exchange, and we have Crosshair turning on Hunter's comm device, and basically saying they're gonna come for you. Hunter's kind of not so sure about it. He's hoping that they'll stay away. Crosshair's confident that they're gonna come for him. And then we get to our the rest of the Bad Batchers on Ord Mantell. There were some funny exchanges here, I thought. But what do you guys? I want to ask you this right up front. What did you think about where we picked up with Omega, in terms of her just how they handled her kind of emotional connection to Hunter, her anticipation here for this mission?
I think, like I said at the beginning, that her character development was earned, because we see in this episode that she's concerned. She has anxiety, like we've seen is typical for her in particular, but also because she is a child and she's a very caring child. But at the same time, I think there's a certain moment where she realizes, okay, we're going back to Kamino. I have information that can help actually save Hunter, that she really steps up into that leadership role, and we see her kind of put aside that anxiety more so and focus on her mission, like as a strategist, as we've seen that she can be. So, I thought that was very fitting and also very exciting, because we get to see the growth of this character into what she could become, in future programs.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that Hunter has very clearly been the leader the whole time, right? And so anytime you go into a mission, yes, they all have their own specialties. Yes, they all take the lead when it's time for them to take the lead. But the strategist, the guy who's directing the whole show, is Hunter. And now he's gone. And you feel that void almost immediately. As soon as he falls off the ridge in the last episode, when they're trying to get away, you feel the absence of that clear direction of what we need to do next. And it picks up right in this episode right there. And seeing Omega step into that role is so cool, because you really do see her. It's almost like they give her some Hunter-esque shots, right? When the rain on Kamino, when she turns around and her hair is all kind of messy in her face and stuff. It's like, yep, that's the Hunter coming through right there.
Yep. And coupled with, I know, because Angela mentioned, I think at the end of last week's episode, that cute little moment of her kind of mimicking him with her tool when he's playing with his knife, like that. Yeah. little foreshadowing there. But they, of course, finish preparing the ship, getting it ready to go. I love that little, quip that Wrecker makes when he gets on. He's like, yeah, I left Gregor with Sid, and she's not happy about that. You can just imagine, Gregor with his sort of bizarre, personality, or his sense of humor kind of being there. So that was a fun little, tying up of that loop. So they head to Kamino. Of course, discovering from the comm device being activated that Hunter is no longer on Darrow. They get to Kamino. It's very lightly guarded. Wrecker's not too worried about that. It's one less thing to worry about, right? And as they're approaching Topoka City, there's this really interesting, what's the word I'm looking for? This little mystery, right? Omega's leading them to these special coordinates. So there's something she knows about. She has Tech lower the shuttle, keeps lowering farther and farther. He says, if I have to go any lower, we're going to go into the water. And then all of a sudden, up pops this hidden platform. And then I just want to ask you guys about this sequence in a second here, but they basically, offload. She gets them onto this really cool not subterranean, what would it be? I just lost the submarine tunnel system that's not on any records. Echo comments to Tech, the Kaminoans have a lot of secrets. And that's when Omega reveals that this is the tunnel, the system that goes specifically to Nala Se's secret research laboratory. So what were you guys kind of thinking in this whole scene? Were you expecting something like this?
I wasn't expecting it, but I was super just nerding out because
same.
I've always loved the tube systems in Star Wars. And just to be able to, kind of learn new information about Topoka City too. I mean, this was too cool, you know, and she said it was a secret. Nobody else knew about it. Very few in Kamino knew that the lab existed. So I was just thrilled.
My only thing was I was wondering why don't you just put the platform underwater? I mean, if it's a space-worthy ship, would you just dump it under the water and it'd be no big deal, right? Just go in. I mean, everything's working on repulsor lifts anyway, right? Just turn the repulsor lifts on, come back up out of the water, we're good. So I was watching that, I was like, I mean, why is everybody bothered by this? Sounds logical to me. Let's go.
Well, even that, I was just thinking that Mon Calamari dock worker wasn't too worried when Mando landed his ship and it just fell into the water. He's like,
I'll get it out. No big deal.
Right, no big deal. So they of course come out into the secret laboratory, and that was very interesting. Obviously, they didn't know anything about this, and I don't know. It was tough for me to read, even tonight watching it another time, Omega's feelings about it, because Echo asks her when they're on their way in, like, are you okay? And she's like, it's nothing. Getting Hunter is all that matters. So I was almost imagining not more like of a trauma, but she did seem a little. I don't know why she was off put. So I don't know if you guys picked up on any of that, because of course what she reveals is this is the lab that basically they were all created in. That the Bad Batch was created in, and that their mutations were honed, or whatever the case was, before they were sent to be with the other clones. And this is where we'll have to see what they reveal more here. But she makes that comment. I was here, and so we're. Does that mean she's like, is she, like we were saying before the show, like, is she older than them? Was she aged? That's where I can't remember exactly.
She doesn't just say I was here. She says we were here. And it's a big difference to say, right, I was here versus we were here, because it seems to imply that they were all there together at the same time. And so, we were trying to play timelines beforehand, like, okay, how does this work? How does this work? So assuming that she's 12, maybe 13 years old, it fits the timeline if Clone Force 99 was made towards the beginning of the clone stuff, because by the time Obi-Wan, Mike, you were saying, by the time Obi-Wan gets to Kamino, it's been going on for 10 years, so that they could have created the clones and then aged them with technology to the appropriate age to be soldiers. But it seems like perhaps the rest of Clone Force 99 was aged, but Omega wasn't. So they all came from the same batch, which is something that's a surprise. That's new information for all of us. And so I'm running with that. I think that's a great take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also wondering, maybe she was created. See, I don't know if she was created maybe before or after them, because we have theorized that she was possibly all of their enhancements were somehow added up, or that she was basically the sum of all of them.
Right.
Because she is called Omega. I mean, just the fact that she was second after Alpha, I don't know if that's the only reason why she was called Omega. Maybe so. But, I do wonder if her enhancement, I mean, maybe it is something completely different from the rest of Clone Force 99, or maybe all of their enhancements were somehow infused, or whatever you want to say, into her being somehow. I don't know. It's just a theory. But yeah, I was also wondering, because she really, like you were saying, Mike, she really kind of had this thought. I think it was because she was talking about Nalase. And okay, yeah. I wonder if
and they did a very close connection we've seen.
Yeah, like what is happening to Nalase? I wonder if that's going through her mind.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's been known, I mean, even before she actually left in the first place, she left Kamino, she knew that there was something bad going on that she wasn't comfortable with. And now that all of this is happening, she isn't privy to exactly what has been happening on the planet with the Empire and so forth. But you got to wonder, I mean, another theory we've had is maybe she's hypersensitive in terms of like psychic energy, or whatever you want to say, that she is more like in tune with emotions or intentions or something like that. So maybe she's getting some kind of, it's not force related, but some kind of feeling of what's going on, or what's happened to Nalase. I don't know. Obviously she's going to Nalase's lab, but maybe she's going there and saying, you know what, I don't expect Nalase to be there. So that could be it too.
And worried about her because, of course, she knows Tanwi's fate, and
yes,
doesn't know. Well, she doesn't know the fate of who's the one I'm forgetting? Gosh, the Prime Minister, Lama Su, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they deliberately trick me with their names a little bit, but I can usually keep them straight. But of course, I mean, so while this is going on, we also have this, movement of Hunter, this developing plan of Crosshairs. We have the encounter with Admiral Rampart, and the just dismissive, I leave this to you, Commander, kind of thing. So we don't know exactly what Crosshair's plan is, but, Rampart is, he's clearing out the city. It's pretty obvious what they're about to do, and he's just going to let him kind of solve this. And then he does indicate to one of these elite troopers that's with Crosshair, who clearly doesn't really trust Crosshair all that much, expresses concern about, the commander's plan. And Rampart just makes that comment, essentially that if the plan fails, they're all going to die anyway, so he doesn't really, it's barely a blip on his day's agenda, so he of course heads out. Hunter keeps trying to appeal to Crosshair, which I know we've been waiting for this for a long time. Is Crosshair still redeemable? And Angela, this might have been a little bit what you were saying too about these earned kind of character developments, because when you said that, I immediately thought of Crosshair, because this whole season I've just been like, he's this snake and I don't care about him, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I care,
Right.
So his when he says to Hunter, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this as well. Just maybe real quick thoughts on this. When he says, Hunter says to him that basically, you're next, right? I'm paraphrasing. Don't you see what's going on here? They're just going to use you. And he says that they're just phasing out clones, and Crosshair points the gun at Hunter and says, not the ones that matter. So he's one that matters. Well, this is where, this is,
and we don't even get the sense there. Yeah, we don't even get the sense there of what his full plan is. Like that moment, until you watch it a second time and you go, oh, wait, what he means is that they matter. Like he's collectively trying to loop in Clone Force 99, right? And
because at the time, that's my note I wrote, was Crosshair's only skill is marksmanship, which is a great skill. But I'm just like, dude, you're you're just a great shot. I'm sorry. I don't want to downplay that, but they can get better shots than you. Although it could be argued that 20 years from now, it sure heck looks like they didn't, but
TK, TK troopers.
Even the joke that Mando makes to Bill Burr's character, right, to Mayfeld, they say he was a sharpshooter, and he's like, that's supposed to scare me or whatever. So it's not even respected. But what do you guys think about this maybe as a whole, this kind of back and forth between Hunter and Crosshair that really starts to ensue here in these next few scenes?
I like it because it harkens back to Vader, and that's what I really felt.
Yeah.
Like initially you don't realize it, and it was beautiful because it was so subtle, and I think that's part of the earned nature of it, is that we're still not in Crosshair's head until that scene in the training room later on where he's like, no, you guys join up, let's do this together. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute, he's got that, he's resisting the Empire in that sense that he still has a family connection to them, and he doesn't want to just kill him. And that moment when he tells Hunter later, if I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Right. And
he's appealing to that family thing. It's always been about the mission before, but this is the most, I think, familial, like that he's actually expressed. Like he didn't seem like he fit in, even at the beginning of this season. So that, I noticed that too.
Yeah. And he's talking about being really hurt about the fact that they left him. And that was so it was tough watching it, because they've built him up as such a great bad guy over the course of this season that now you're like, he wanted them to I'm like, what were they supposed to do? How were they supposed to solve that issue at the time? But apparently he wanted that. And having gone through a lot of spots in my life, especially going through a depression, when male depression is very different than female depression. And that's something that we discovered in our relationship, where I was angry. Like that was the emotion that welled up in me was an unreasonable, almost anger. And through that, I remember crying out for help, but my help crying was getting angry and getting upset about things. So I really, that character moment for me was really impactful, because I've been there, I know what he's talking about. I don't really have a full sense of what's going on here, but you guys are the only ones that can help me. And I'm hunting you, but you're the only ones that can help me.
Yeah. That's what's so tragic about his character. Is that, even when he's telling, Hunter, it's like, oh, and you had a choice. It's like, oh, I did, I didn't have a choice. He knew he didn't have a choice at a certain point. And that was why it was even more tragic when we realize how abandoned he felt, you know, that they in fact abandoned someone who was a slave to the Empire. And you know, that's kind of, it's, Hunter keeps insisting, you know, you don't understand what we're about, but I think Crosshair has a point too. I mean, the point that Crosshair makes from the very first line of this episode is that they're going to come for him because that's what they do. That's who they believe that they are, is they're a unit and they belong together. And that's what hurts even more, is that they didn't come for me when I didn't have a choice. So, oh gosh, it was fantastic.
Well, and that's, you know, then we do cut back, of course, to seeing the other guys and Omega. And I failed to mention, my bad, this character, I can't leave him out because we were trying to remember his full designation. But AZ, right, the droid, Omega's friend from those early episodes. And actually, let me just get it quick because we talked about this earlier. Here it is. Is it AZ1 or AZI? We're not sure about that, but -34521189624649872137. And when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that scene now. I had forgotten that from early on when he starts rattling that off and they're like, this is AZ. Okay. So that's fun. He gets roped in. I think all of us who are, of course, excited to hear the news of season 2 being announced are hoping that, I think he and Gonki will be a great droid pair. Hopefully, if everybody makes it, we'll see. But so they get to the bay underneath the training room, and Tech and Echo and Wrecker jump up on the lift. The plan is to go up right in the middle, which supposedly Crosshair's not going to be expecting that. They tell Omega if there's any issues, they'll contact her. She can contact Rex. So she stays below. They come up on the lift, and lo and behold, they're completely surrounded by troopers, and Hunter and Crosshair, who of course expected this move. So then we get a lot of this more unpacking that we've already kind of talked about a little bit of this really tense moment. And I gotta say, I didn't immediately remember what these little mirror things were. Mm-hmm. Right. So as Crosshair's talking and you just see Tech, he looks over, sees this mirror, kind of nudges Wrecker. And then in this surprise moment to, you know, demonstrate that he's serious and wants to talk, Crosshair blasts all of the troopers with one shot, ricocheting around the room expertly, as he is, of course, very good at doing. So we do have this tense moment, this invitation that's very. Did you guys get again like a Vader vibe, the appeal to Luke?
Yes,
but without it just copying it. Right,
exactly.
Join the Empire, you know. But
and just on that point too, it's like just this idea of. I found it so interesting. He actually he orders, and we're kind of like, you know, I mean, the order of the events is a little bit, you know, but we've all seen it by this point. But he orders that Omega be sent off world on a shuttle for her own good. And I thought that was so interesting too.
I didn't expect that.
Right. Because he's making an appeal to Hunter that, you know, they should join the Empire. Well, what are they going to do with her, right? Like, she's not going to just enlist and join the Empire, he assumes, I guess. But also this idea of trying to be something that you're not. That's what he's telling Hunter. Like, you know, you're don't try to be something you're not, i.e., a parent, I guess, you know, or a guardian. You're a soldier. You know, is essentially what he's saying, right? And to me, it was interesting because it was almost like Crosshair, you know, obviously we sympathize with him or we empathize with him, but at the same time, he has this narrow concept of himself as a soldier. And I think the rest of Clone Force 99 has kind of like their idea of who they are has expanded, while Crosshairs has remained essentially the same. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, why, you know, his, as you were saying, you know, Thomas, his depression, his abandonment is also sad because he's just stuck in this place. And even, you know, we know he's gotten his chip removed and everything, and we'll talk about that. But this idea that, you know, he's still there. And he's like, you know, you guys need to do this too, because this is who you are. And so in terms of the character development, I also saw this as a character development moment where we realize how much the rest of Clone Force 99 has grown in terms of their self-identity and self-concept.
They've broadened out, and I think it's cool to like, the lit nerd in me is like, okay, he's Crosshair, right? So he focuses in, he eliminates distractions, focuses in, closes in on a single target, right? And he's done that with his emotional state, right? His emotional state is, no, I am a soldier. That's who I am. I'm going to focus on that one thing and eliminate all the other things that distract me. And his moment here is, I want to eliminate the rest of the team or bring them into the same focus, right? We need to all be together, or I need to be completely separated from them. And it feels like he's pushing that so hard here because he wants some finality to it. He wants some kind of conclusion to this moment, and he wants it to be them with him, but at the same time, he's willing to push it over that other boundary as well.
It's so many good points. It's amazing. What's weird, what came to mind was trying to find the actor's name so I don't forget. I think I have it right, but I didn't want to misquote. Yeah, that's it. I don't know if you guys saw, it came out a good 10 years ago or so, but the Pius XII movie, like kind of a bio movie about him, like Ignatius Press, I want to say one of those, or yeah, because I think it wasn't like an overly dubbed one, because some of them are. But there was a scene where it's James Cromwell playing Pius XII, and he does a pretty good job, I think. And there's one scene I remember pretty vividly where this Nazi higher up of some sort, some soldiers kind of having these meetings with him, sometimes putting pressure on him, whatever. And, you know, the kind of this very cool, you know, sophisticated kind of thing, not, you know, not quite to the level of Christoph Waltz or anything, but that kind of, you know, that kind of attitude. And he says something like in response to Pius XII, who's been kind of quiet in the scene and very just gentlemanly with him. And he says something like, he just responds like, oh, blah, 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 you know, I'm a soldier. And it's that dismissive kind of rattling that off. And the scene, it happens so quick, it kind of it made me like jump in my seat the way it's acted, because Cromwell just shouts like out of nowhere, like interrupts him as soon as he says that. He's like, no, and like slams the table. He's like, you're a man, you know, and corners him on this, like, you are a child, like, you know, what you are, who you are is so much bigger than this thing you're turning yourself into. You know, that you've boxed yourself into this ideology of sick, repulsive hatred, like whatever it is, like you've completely lost sight. And that's, I thought of that right away when you mentioned that, Tom, so that you have this with Crosshair, the same kind of thing of like, you got to open your eyes a bit here, pal. Let's see that bigger picture. But that's of course, maybe I can open it up to this because that's when he reveals this big thing, because Hunter addresses that, right? Like, it's your chip, right? Because he's seeing it too, like it's just the chip. But apparently it's a little more complicated than that too, because that's when Crosshair says, I had my chip removed a long time ago. It doesn't say when. And that's when I wrote in my notes right away. I was like, is this Bad Batch's equivalent of Vader's ESB reveal? So that's what it felt like to me, a little bit like, this whole time, every week, I'm saying just knock Crosshair out, like Wrecker, knock him out with the butt of your rifle, take the chip out, like let's Rex this thing, right? And then it's fixed. So what did you guys think about that reveal?
It just fit so well with the character, like that he is choosing, and it fits with the story of like the TKs, right? What the Empire wants is loyal subjects that have voluntarily offered themselves, and he has seen that, right? We get that sense from the first interaction that he has with Hunter in this one, where he says, you know, not the clones that matter, but because what he's saying is, I've seen the way things are going and I fixed that problem. I took the chip out and I swore my loyalty, and so I've already fixed that problem. I get to continue being the soldier that I am, and I'm serving the Empire, and the Empire was the Republic. There's no difference in his mind, right? There's no difference between the two. It's just a continuation of the same thing. It's the eternal war that he has signed up to be a part of.
Yeah, and from a story perspective, it's gold, really, because the story team has led us along to believe for an entire season that every single one of his actions and words, intentions, was completely motivated by this super extremely, hiked up inhibitor chip. And we've held out hope that everything could be tied up in a nice dainty bow at the end and you could get that removed or disabled or something. And here we are. And it's actually so much more Star Wars this way, I think, because Star Wars deals with real life situations and is very relatable and teaches lessons that we have to really, wrestle with in real life. And life is not, everyone has an inhibitor chip and you've got to remove it. And then once you do, everybody knows exactly which way is up and down. Life is much more complicated than that. People are much more complicated than that. And why would a clone that we've had this whole long journey with the clones over the years, right, in Star Wars, to see how individual they truly are as persons. And so to see Crosshair make a decision based off of many different factors that we've been discussing, it does make sense. It does make a lot of sense. And why did he get the inhibitor chip removed? And was it maybe when he was injured after that engine, combusted and he was burned and
they seem to
injured?
Suggest that, I think.
Yeah, that's probably, that's my guess. The fact that he said long ago, we don't exactly get a sense of time, with this story, necessarily, besides just kind of the Empire working to phase out Tipoca City and whatnot. But I really appreciated it. I loved the line where he says, "This is who I am," because how often do we encounter people who, people embrace their choices, right? People are free to choose. And oftentimes it is so frustrating for us to embrace people when they have these choices where it's like, I really don't get you. I really don't understand how you've come to this conclusion. And how could you betray me? I think a lot of people are feeling that right now in many different areas of life. So it just felt so relevant, so timely, so just wonderful. I appreciated it a lot, as much as it was, tragic and difficult.
Well, it's one of those things too where we do spend so much time talking about the individuality of the clones. To have put that aside ourselves, right, as the viewer. Oh, of course, if he had the inhibitor chip out, he would be, just like the rest of Clone Force 99, he would want to fight the Empire, right? But because they're all the same, and we weren't giving him credit for being an individual. And that was, it was a tough moment to have that pop up too, because you're like, oh, wait a minute. I really like this guy. I want him, I want him to be back in the fold, but there are times, where with your family, you have to just say, I love you, but I'm not going to have this discussion with you just because I know we're going to disagree, and I'm going to love you still, but I know we're going to disagree.
Well, and I think that it's interesting because Omega, I'm curious about Omega's place in all. Well, so like you said, Angela, with that little detail of Crosshair just kind of right on the spot giving this order to send her off planet, showing this kind of concern for her in that sense. They haven't had much interaction. They haven't really had any negative interaction. Like she was kind to him in the cell.
She did shoot him. She did shoot him early on.
True.
Like that was their first encounter, right?
Yeah, well, even yeah. I mean, so it makes me like him even more. I mean, she didn't shoot the other guys, right? And you know, they've had some arguments with her. No, but seeing that's an interesting. I guess I don't know that it's so much a love or concern for her as like you were saying, like maybe just to subtract her out of, like, she doesn't fit, you know. And he does practically, though, he does say, and I take him at his word, you know, about like this is no place for her, you know. But what's also interesting is he doesn't know her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he has no idea what her skills are. He hasn't been with her. He hasn't seen her earn her keep. You know, he has no reason, I don't think, to really think of her as part of the team, you know, just even experientially. So that makes sense. Yeah. Although, I don't know, she did shoot him. So I feel maybe he respects her because of that, you know?
Yeah. It was a
no
tough
one
shot.
else has done
Right?
that. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
We have to also, I'm sure his knowledge that he's been given access to in terms of, you know, the Empire got all the data from, you know, the Kaminoan system, right? And so they probably know who she is, unless those were secret encrypted files somewhere that they didn't get access to. But yeah, that was also kind of like a loose end for me, like, you know, where who knows what Omega is, and what does that circle look like, you know?
And it's closing. You know, Nala Se seems to be the only one left that really knows what she is. Just, I mean, besides CF-99, obviously.
I loved how, you know, Tech, who's always, you know, he doesn't know everything, you know, but he usually does. And I loved his like uncharacteristic, kind of just exasperated comment when Wrecker, like she says about the backstory with them in this lab, and Wrecker's like, "Is that true?" And Tech's like, "How could I possibly know that?" Like, that's like just a really like complete humble, like dude, I'm completely in uncharted territory right now with you, you know, which is fun. And by the way, I did fail to mention, of course, Omega's big thing. Wow, forgive me, but I kind of mixed up the order here a little bit. But of course, her plan, just a decent plan, but poorly timed, unfortunately, because they end up having everything sorted out more or less. But it does come in handy a little bit, I guess, there. But she releases the training droids, like all of them.
Yeah, I love AZ's line. Yeah, you may have gone a little overboard with the training droids. Yeah, just a little bit. She
starts taking them out. But what do you guys? I got really fired up, like the hair went up on the back of my neck when that moment when, you know, Hunter and Crosshair are fighting, and then, you know, just that practical moment where Crosshair's like, okay, we all have to work together right now, and like playing that Bad Batch theme, the first time we've seen them all fighting together, you know, since what episode? That first episode, really, right?
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a great moment, and it really was. Like they really went with the Avengers Assemble kind of feel for that one, you know, where it's totally team got together. They were you still worried what the outcome was going to be afterwards, but you knew that for the rest of this battle, they were back to being that unit that they always had been.
Yeah. And might be again. I don't know. I can't help but wonder. Now, it's not over yet because they gave us a big cliffhanger, which we'll get to here in a minute, but we'll see. So, but and I know, Angela, you and Father were mentioning last week about these guys are still using their stun, you know, function on these blasters. And
Not Wrecker. Wrecker was shooting real bullets. He was going for it.
But I love that we have that last little stand down. You know, Crosshair gets up, the little battle's over, turns around, realizes this isn't looking too good. But he attempts. You know, like let's give it a try. And that's of course when Hunter drops him with a stun blast, which. It seemed like it lasted a little longer than usual. I don't know. It's just that little bit like bobblehead. You know, I think a Crosshair bobblehead would be a nice addition to the collection here. But you know, like just in a permanent collapse. But not surprisingly, I mean, I don't think did either of you guys expect them to leave him there? Of course, that's not them. They scoop him up. We're gonna sort this out. That's of course when Hunter looks at the scarring from that ion blast and everything. Way back when, that we're meant to believe had something to do with the inhibitor chip. But they start to flee. this is where I wanted to open it up for a couple minutes, I think, here, because this gets back to that aesthetic and the music and sort of the legacy of Kamino. For my money, that shot when they're fleeing was like one of the most cinematic. What's the word I'm looking for?
Cinematic.
Oh, it's much simpler than the word I was attempting. The cinematographic. Yeah. What is that? Cinematic moments. What do you guys think about that? Those shots of all those iconic places around Kamino as we're all kind of checking out for the last time, basically, if I can put it that way. What'd you think of that? I thought it was eerie was the word I wrote down.
Yeah, and I think they really did it especially for the people that really love the prequels. I think it was almost like a goodbye love letter in a way to the prequels in a sense, because, you know, it was almost like a final moment to appreciate this place and all that it has given us, you know, and all those moments that have happened there. You know, it was just a nice pause to really appreciate what happens, right, as all of the destruction, you know, everything comes down. So I thought that was definitely something that you know, when people make Star Wars, they love Star Wars, and I think they felt that this was really appropriate at a time to really say, hey, let's show people, you know, just almost the sadness of this, but at the same time, like, to revel in those times, and then it's just that much more heartbreaking at the end.
Yeah, and it's one of those where the war movies that do this really well, and this is kind of broadening the perspective out to the cinematography side of things, is the war movies that do this really well is they have that contraposition of the beauty and serenity of a place with the just wanton destruction of war. And that was those shots where it just kind of moves out over the whole facility, and then the Venators just ominously sail in through the clouds before they open fire. It's such a great moment where it's just like this peaceful, calm place. Why destroy it? Why blow it up? Why not just repurpose it for something, use it for something else? You know, you've already taken it over. You've already moved everybody else, but that's not the Empire style. The Empire style is, we're done with this place, we're leveling it, and we're moving on to our next thing that we're interested in. And you know, Mike, you mentioned it in our feeds, that moment when Tarkin gives the command and says, "You may fire when ready," and it's like goes straight back to the Death Star, and that first time where we see that happen.
I think that was Dom. Yeah, Dom.
Oh, was it Dom that was mentioned that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That was a great moment, and just such a good tie-in to, you know, how these guys think of things, and you know, the bureaucracy of it, right? Where it's just like, you may fire when ready. It's so bored. He's not even interested. He's not even like worried. He's just like, you may fire when ready. You know.
Yeah. Have your don't rush. Have your tea.
Right.
Just, we get around to it. Just
the destruction will happen. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, and a couple things that came to mind with that. First of all, shameless self-promotion for Thomas and I here. That reminds me of the episode we did on Secrets of Movies and TV Shows for the Thin Red Line, because that kind of thing is all over that movie. Yep. So check that out if you haven't seen it. But also I was trying to think of a different way to say it, but let's just admit it. This is the reason Father's not here tonight. No, the definitive, like the beginning of the end of this location that came to such prominence in Father's favorite movie. Right. That he is. I got to give him credit, because we all tease him a little bit, because I don't know if I know anyone else who thinks that whose favorite Star Wars movie is Episode 2. And man, Father, I know you're listening to this. God, I mean, I am so encouraged by, like, he does not shy away from making his case. You know, he makes a really strong case for it. So we our heart goes out to Father Fett for the beginning of the destruction of Tipoca City here, which honestly, like you guys are saying, it hit me, because getting back to what we said at the beginning, this right at the end, introducing new layers to it, and like this area that, quite frankly, I won't say I was bored with it, but it's like, what more can I learn about Kamino now?
Right.
Like, oh yeah, Kamino, and now it's like, wow, like, so yeah, it's incredible what they've done here, and to tee this thing up for next week, which I want to get your guys' predictions here in just a second. One other thing I couldn't resist. This is just terrible of me, but in the midst of one of the most dramatic moments here, as basically Rampart has the and what are they called? What are the ships called again? Thomas, you mentioned
Venators.
Venators. They're so cool. I love how we're getting a little preview, of course, that aesthetic again of those Star Destroyers that we all know from later on. But these remind me a lot of the cruiser that like Moff Gideon's in. A couple decades later too. It's there's some similarities there, of course, but I was laughing because Kamino is just, there's a beauty about it, but I'm like, it's just this constant stormy, rainy, dark kind of thing, and Kamino is so bright, and I was laughing. I was like, can you imagine like the fortune you could make with seasonal affective disorder lamps at this place? Because all I was thinking of my friends from like the Northwest and stuff, and like when we were in seminary, I was laughing because we had a really rough winter, the year I was in seminary, and they were telling the seminarians, because we got snowed in over and over, and they're like, if you guys, we have someone, a family, seminarian mother, somebody donated this sad lamp, and I'm laughing at the time, like, you got to call it, like, it has to be that acronym. Like, come on. And we're all like, everybody was laughing about it. Like, seasonal affective disorder. And over like the next few weeks, you'd see guys, like, you're working with your door open to your room, like working on a paper, and you'd see a guy like just quietly like walking down the hall with it. Like he went to borrow it. Like you'd see people go in and borrow it, and it was like, it works, So, but anyway, but inside it is very bright, very, illuminated, which made it creepier, quite frankly, for me, as they start to blow this thing up. And it's like, I don't know if it's to their credit. I do wonder, I'm not saying I would want the Empire to do more brutal things, but what do you guys think is going on here with the clones that they sent away? Like we saw the kids go, and it just makes you wonder, because like these guys, like in a few decades, they've got no qualms whatsoever about blasting Alderaan to smithereens. So like, so yeah, killing innocents, like, it seems like it would cover things up, but they seem to have cleared everyone out, taken what they need for the research, and then just, it's an empty facility they're done with. So do you think I'm intrigued. They dulled it a little bit, in doing it that way, or I don't know. I wonder.
Oh no, Filoni's got more of a story to tell.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, because it really delivered, I thought. But yeah,
I'm wondering what they have done with them, because I don't think that's anywhere near the end of these guys and what I think. I mean, even saying, even putting Filoni aside and just saying, okay, you can't just drop something like that and then leave it alone. But the really cool thing is that Filoni is not afraid of plowing new narrative tracks into Star Wars. And this would be a huge narrative track to plow. Like, what did they do with these clones when they replaced them with TKs? I mean, there's all sorts of things. Like maybe they sold them to the spice miners, and that's what populates the spice mines. And that's there. There's so many different things they could be doing with them. And
they are a threat, because even they're more efficient. They've even admitted, or Tech was saying that or Tech or Gregor, right in that last episode, pointing out that soldier to soldier, these clone troopers are better than the TK troopers. Right. And the Empire knows that. So but then there's a lot of them out there. So they can't just say like, here's, any military people out there know what I'm talking about. Here's your 214, like, see ya. Like, they hand you your discharge paperwork and you're out. Like, well, they might follow that order, but then you have like a trained, super soldier basically out there who, if he starts to think that this is an unjust empire, might be a threat. I mean, look at Rex. That's just one dude, Gregor. So yeah, there's got to be a bigger plan here.
And the thing that I'm thinking is, so there is a reason that Clone Force 99 isn't part of the rebellion. And what we might end up having is a whole story of them going to free the clones as a group, and then instead of like joining the rebellion or anything like that, we're done fighting. Like they all just decide collectively, we're done with this. We're gonna go, and they just Outer Rim. They like just hop on a ship and go to the Outer Rim and live their life somewhere else, and
like a colony planet or something. No, I don't know.
and so that that's one way to kind of wrap this series up without, so you don't interfere with the main storyline. You actually explain why there's not clones everywhere in the main Star Wars story. And you also have Clone Force 99 kind of tidily squared away with this group of clones that's gone off to do their own thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to imagine much darker things because of the Nazi overtones, you know, with the Empire. I tend to think, you know, they were very excited about having Nala Se. We see much later on in Mandalorian that there's still cloning technology happening. There's still cloning scientists. So it makes me wonder, what they were doing with experimentation, and who they were experimenting on.
That's a good point.
Maybe not all of the clones, maybe some of them, maybe others they just sent off to do different missions that were doomed to fail, like on planets that they were going to blow up anyway. Something like that, to where it was very much like you were saying, Thomas, that it's just dispose of whatever this is that we don't need or we don't want anymore. So that's kind of my tendency to, you know, go that way. I really like your idea, Thomas. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for it.
I hope this is a more positive story, right?
Yeah, it would be a great episode arc or season 2. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We get like a scene with all these clones hanging up their armor like scarecrows in the field, like Thanos, but minus the whole snap thing. No,
that would be really cool. That would be really cool, though. Like to have have them like, you know, we're done with this. We're moving on. We're gonna go make a farm planet somewhere, and that's what we're gonna do.
They stumble into uncharted territory, into Chiss space or something.
And then we got a whole other realm of stuff coming in at us.
Father and I are like, you know, chomping at the bit for like, hey, Thrawn. It's always like somehow it connects. I think we want Thrawn to be the Kevin Bacon of the Star Wars universe. We're overdoing it a little bit, but well, they start blasting the city, and basically that's this big cliffhanger. You know, they try to go out onto the landing platform. I forget which one of them yells for everyone to go back inside, but then we just see, you know, they go back in, doors shut, and we just see that dramatic image of Tipoca City just kind of caving in on itself and starting to sink. And we cut to a pretty quiet credits. There was music, you know, but it was very, very
somber.
Powerful, somber, sort of scene. So just maybe by way of kind of wrapping things up, and if you guys have any final thoughts or predictions about, you know, I mean, it's pretty obvious where we pick up next week, but where we leave off, you know, in a half hour or less, it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
Right. I mean, I personally, I don't even know if they had time to get back to the tubes. Just the way that it was presented, which, you know, was strategic. You know, they want to leave us hanging. They want to leave us wondering. But you know, it makes me wonder if maybe they're going to have to live on the water for some while. Were they able to get a signal out to Rex? You know, there's some different possibilities there. But one thing that I will remember from this ending was Omega's look on her face as she saw basically, you know, just her hometown, her home planet just being destroyed, and just that look on her face, and then AZ just kind of dragging her back in. I wonder what kind of effect it's going to have on her.
I mean, it might as well be Alderaan, you know what I mean? Like, it's what do we know if there's anything else on this planet except that?
We don't know anything about this. I mean, this is the only part of the planet.
Right, yeah.
The planet's not even in the galactic maps, so
right, exactly, yeah. What do you think, Thomas? Any predictions or?
I don't know. I think there's still more to plumb from the storyline of what Nala Se left behind, because we only got such a tiny glimpse of it, and it was a lot. Like, you know, there was a lot of in your face stuff, but the Kaminoans keep secrets, right? And Omega seemed to be privy to a lot of those secrets. So I really do feel like there's more
why?
For her to do. Yeah. We need to learn some more about her, because once you leave this place, it's done. There's no coming back to Kamino and discovering something else. That's it. It's been totaled. So there's still got to be a little more for us to get out of that story before they leave. And so that's my thought on it. And I think Hunter might be in a not great mental space to be the leader, so she's going to have to pick that back up as we go into this finale, which is good. I want to see that.
Very cool. Well, I think that's going to be it from us for now. Of course, I can't wait to dive in next week.
I know,
this is
right?
Thrilling.
We have to wait until Friday, man. Come on.
Sit on the couch for a couple days and wait. No. So, listeners, what did you think of this episode of The Bad Batch? So please let us know. As always, we'd love to hear your take on it. So be sure to email us your comment on our Facebook or Twitter page. Let us know. So I should say email us, or also you can comment on Facebook, the Twitter page. You can email us any feedback at starwars@sqpn.com, and find Starquest on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, and on Twitter at SQPN. We'd also like to take a moment now to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Wars, including Brett, John M., Ryan C., Chris N., and John T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Star Wars, please visit sqpn.com/Star Wars. We will be back next week as we take a deeper look at episode 16, the grand finale of The Bad Batch Season 1. I don't know if we have a title on that one yet, but we'll see. So until next time, Angela, Sealana, thank you so much for joining me in sharing the Secrets of Star Wars.
No pun intended, but it was a blast.
Oh, too soon. Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you so much as well.
It was great being here.
And once again, I'm Mike Creavey. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.